Welcome to Auto Guild. In this video, I'm going to show you 10 common mistakes that you might be making with your classic car that could be sucking the fun right out of it. Let's get started right now. Number 1, using Dynamat. You know Dynamat. It's that thick, heavy insulation that goes on the floor of your vehicle. Some people are going crazy with this stuff, putting it everywhere, in the doors, on the headliner, in the trunk, inside the doors. Multiple layers. I'm going to tell you right now why this is a bad idea. For one thing, it's super expensive. Dynamat's got floor kits, door kits, trunk kits, headliner kits. You're talking well over $500 to do your whole car. And that's if you don't go crazy like some people do and put even more than they recommend. The other thing, of course, is the weight. 30 pounds for the 2 floor kits, 6 pounds for the door kit, 10 pounds for the trunk kit, 4 pounds for the headliner, and you're putting all the weight up high on the headliner. That's the worst idea. I know what you're thinking. 50 pounds, that's not that much, especially on a muscle car or an old classic car. But let's talk about the power loss for a second. If you've got a 330 horsepower car that weighs 3,300 pounds, just to keep the math simple, and you add 50 pounds of Dynamat, now you've got to add 5 horsepower to make up for that added weight. But remember, that weight is also going to impact your steering, your handling, your miles per gallon, your ride, acceleration, braking, everything. And honestly, don't we have too much refinement and quietness and fancy things in our lives as it is? Let's use our muscle cars as a way to escape for a little while. Mistake number 2, not upgrading your anti-roll bars. You don't want your car wallowing around corners like this. You want it flat to the ground and tight like this. What you're going to get with sway bars is that flat feeling, that initial turn-in when you first turn the wheel is going to be very quick, and it's going to overall react better because the tires are sticking to the ground. So most classic cars are going to have a skinny bar in the front and no bar in the rear. You want to add a thick bar in the front and add a bar in the rear, and try to add polyurethane bushings and an adjustable sway bar if you can, so you can stiffen and loosen the sway bar as needed. Classic car mistake number 3 and 4. Running too small of diameter wheels and too narrow width of wheels. So a lot of cars you see on the road are running 14, 15-inch wheels, sometimes 16-inch wheels, with really skinny wheels too, 6 inches wide, 7 inches wide, stuff that came from the factory in the 60s. And also some skinny tires to go along with it, 205s, 225s, somewhere in that area. And these tires are sucking the fun out of your car. What you want to do is upgrade everything. Go with a larger diameter wheel, go with a wider wheel, front and rear, and you want to stagger the wheels. So look at the wheels on the right here. The wheels in the front are 8 to 10 inches wide, and the wheels in the rear should be 9 to 12 inches wide. This is going to let you run some serious tires, 215s to 255s in the front, and 255s to even all the way up to 315 or even wider in the rear. And this is going to give you that amazing stance and also that performance. If you're running skinny tires and really crappy old wheels, you're not going to have the performance you're looking for out of your car. One last thing too, you may be going to shows or seeing cars on the road and they just look really good and you're not sure why they look so much better than your car. It's probably because they're running this staggered stance, and the staggered means a wider wheel in the rear than in the front, and it just makes the car look meaner. It has a better stance, and it's also going to give you better traction, better braking, and just overall better package. And running smaller wheels leads us into number 5. When you run smaller wheels like 15-inch diameter wheels, you're almost always forced to run low performance tires. I know what you're thinking. Those old wheels and old tires can sometimes look really cool, and I totally agree. But remember, those old wheels and tires are sucking the fun out of your car. That's because the tire companies don't make high-performance tires for 15-inch wheels anymore. They just don't. You really need to upgrade your wheels to 17-inch or 18-inch if you want to get decent tires. If you don't believe me, let's take a look at the BF Goodrich TA Radial. This tire has an S speed rating of 112 miles an hour. The S rating is the lowest allowed by law. This tire also has a 400 tread wear score, which makes it a tire designed to last a long time. It's not designed to perform. The tire is also extremely heavy. And these old classic cars, these old muscle cars, they need all the help they can get when it comes to handling and braking and acceleration. Consider instead something like the BF Goodrich G4 Sport Comp 2. This is an ultra high performance summer Z-rated tire that is really going to change the character of your classic car. Mistake number 6, running steel wheels. If you can afford it, don't run steel wheels. Get some cast aluminum wheels, or even better yet, some forged wheels. Steel wheels are heavy wheels. Like I said, if you want to keep your car 100% factory stock, like the old school look of steel wheels, totally get it, that's fine. But if you want to make your old car look cool and perform and have a little bit of fun, then you definitely want to upgrade to cast or forged. The other downside to steel, of course, is that it rusts, so your car can look terrible after a little while. They tend to come in smaller and narrower sizes. So cast wheels just have a ton of advantages. Lots of styles to choose from, many different sizes available, and still relatively affordable. Forged wheels can get crazy expensive, $400 for a wheel or more. And I actually don't have these on my car. I would love to have them on my car. They tend to be more for newer performance cars. You don't see them that much in the kind of classic car and muscle car styles, but really a great option if you can find something that works for your car. Please hit the thumbs up button if you are digging this kind of detailed information, and think about subscribing. Next, let's look specifically at some wheel weights. So I put together a page here with steel, cast, and forged in 2 different sizes, 15x7 and 17x8. And these are just kind of ballpark weights, so don't get crazy if you find wheels that are lighter or heavier than these, just to give everybody an idea of what the weights are. So looking at the going from steel to cast, on the 15x7 inch wheel, you're going to save 6 pounds, and then on 17x8, you're going to save about 10 pounds. Now again, you've got 4 of these on your car, so that's quite a bit of weight savings. And then again, going from cast to forged, you're going to save about 9 pounds per wheel. So by doing this, you're reducing the unsprung weight of your car. This unsprung weight is going to allow the wheels to respond better to the road. You're going to have improved acceleration and braking, as the engine's not going to have to turn those heavy wheels. And going with the lighter wheels also allows you to run larger wheels, which usually look better and will allow you to have more high-performance tire options, as I mentioned already. You want to get that lower profile tire. That's going to stiffen everything up, make the handling better, the braking better, acceleration better. It's just really going to tighten up everything on your car when you're driving. One more thing I want to add is don't add chrome to your wheels. Don't get chromed wheels if you care about weight. Chrome is going to add about 1 pound per wheel. Mistake number 7, using vintage drums and vintage disc brakes. Drum brakes are really the worst, and I'm going to give you 8 reasons why. Number 1, they're really bad at dissipating heat because the heat gets trapped inside the drum and can't escape, so the drum can't cool itself. This causes problem number 2. They're prone to brake fade. The brakes will fade. If you use them over and over a few times, they're going to fade. They're not going to work as well. Number 3, they're much less effective in wet conditions. This is because water can get inside the drum and actually pool up and really affect the braking performance. Number 4, they're much more complex. Look at all the different parts. There's so many parts to fail and so much maintenance. 5, as the drum heats up and under hard braking, that drum can actually increase in diameter because the metal is expanding because it's hot. So that changes the feel of the pedal. Number 6, they have a poor initial grab. Number 7, that poor initial grab has led drum brake designers to create this servo action. So when you step on the brakes, it hits the drum and it actually allows the drum pads to kind of rotate and become tighter and grab more. But number 7 creates problem number 8. That servo action makes the drum brake much more likely to lock up. So it really doesn't grab that great until that servo action kicks in, and then it wants to grab really hard and lock up. I know how bad drum brakes can be. I had rear drums on my 68 Camaro for about 9 years while it was my daily driver when I was in high school and college. There are probably other reasons why drum brakes are so bad. If you've got an idea, leave it in the comments below. But don't comment and say, oh, well, such and such car has drum brakes and it's still out there. Or 80,000 pound semi-trucks have drum brakes, so they must be good. Drum brakes are garbage. That's why you don't see them. If you see them on a car, it's because they're cheap. A few comments on vintage disc brakes too. They're almost as bad. You've got heavy iron calipers, super small rotors. Everything is just heavy and doesn't work very well. It's rusty. The calipers don't slide like they're supposed to. You know, modern tires have really changed everything. The cars now have better traction and handling than before. So you've got to upgrade your brakes to keep up. Mistake number 8, running a huge throttle body. So a throttle body is just an air metering device. It governs how much air is going to your engine. And you probably don't need a huge throttle body, and I'm going to give you 4 reasons why right now. Number 1, your engine probably doesn't need it. If your engine is stock or mildly modified, you're just not going to have enough air flowing through there to take advantage of the larger throttle body. Number 2, with a larger throttle body, yes, there might be more air going through, but with the larger diameter tube, the air could be going slower. And this could make your car feel lazy. A large throttle body is designed to suck maximum air at high RPM. It's really for race engines that are running around the track at full throttle the entire time. And if you're like most owners who are just cruising around town and like to stab the throttle here and there, you're going to have a delayed response when you tip into that throttle, and it's going to suck the fun out of your car. Number 3, like I already said, you're probably using your car around the street. So if your usage is street, and a little tiny bit of racing here and there, stick with the stock throttle body. It's going to give you that mid-range power, that quick throttle response when you're cruising around town that really makes your car enjoyable to drive. The 4th reason why you probably don't want a huge throttle body is they're expensive. You're adding all this cost and you might see a little bit of horsepower gain at the very, very top RPM, but you're sucking all the throttle response out of your car and it's going to hurt the torque down low. So why would you pay extra money to do all of that? Unless you're racing, skip the large throttle body. A couple of last comments on throttle body. The Ford Shelby Mustang GT350 that launched in 2015 makes 526 horsepower, redlines at 8,200 RPM, and it has an 87 millimeter throttle body. So why does your LS need a 103 millimeter throttle body? Mistake number 9, not running enough positive caster on your car. Most vintage cars have only 1 or maybe 2 degrees of caster, and that's just not enough. If you have a modern car, you really don't have to worry about this. You probably already have enough built in. If you have an old car, try to run at least 4, 6, even 8 degrees of caster on your front wheels. This is going to give you 4 things: improved straight line tracking, high speed stability, increased steering effort, which I know sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually really good because it allows you to feel the road much better, and improved cornering. You can't really add too much caster, so when you go to get your car aligned, ask them to add as much caster as possible. Some of the aftermarket A-arm setups will advertise that they add caster. Most of them won't tell you how much, and a lot of them will only add the caster in the upper A-arm, but this can cause problems with some classic cars because when you just add caster in the upper A-arm, it will tend to move the wheel back, and then you can have interference and rubbing issues with your tires. Number 10, running race brake pads on your street car. There are really 4 different pad types, and there's one pad type that you almost certainly need on your car, and that's the street pad. Street pads are either organic or semi-metallic. They're optimized for normal driving conditions, from freezing temperatures to extremely hot summers. They bite really well when cold, so when you hit the brakes, they're there. And they do this all with little to no noise, but of course they can't handle the heat abuse of lap after lap track runs. And that's what the race pad is for. Race pads are generally metal or ceramic, and they require heat to work best. They're optimized for stability and consistency at extremely high temperatures. So they feel terrible, even almost frightening when they're cold, but when they're warm, man, they really perform. And they have excellent resistance to fade. They feel really good when you're out there on the track driving really hard, but when you're driving them on the street, they just won't get warm enough to work well. The other thing with race pads is they tend to be super noisy. Even when they're not applied, sometimes they're very noisy, and they tend to eat up your rotors a lot faster than standard pads. The autocross pad is just a hybrid between the street pad and the race pad. And then finally, a couple more things. Low dust pads. Do you think the car companies really want dust all over your wheels? If you buy low dust pads, just know that you're making a compromise. They have to make dust to work properly. Low dust pads are harder and they won't stop as well. So if you buy low dust pads, you're making a compromise on your performance and your safety. Finally, racing brake fluid. High temperature brake fluid has a 600 degree or higher boiling point. Awesome, right? This is perfect. I'm going to put it in all my cars. No, don't do it. Racing brake fluid is a different formula, has a shorter lifespan. It begins to break down much faster than regular fluid. And when it does break down, it performs worse than regular fluid. So don't use this unless you are running on the racetrack. And if you are, it has to be changed at least once per year. Hey, thanks for joining today. What's going to pop up on your screen right now is a link to a test that you can take for your car to see how badass it is. Click on that link and take the test.